Okay. Can we resume the session, please?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So far we examined the different types of assessments. We have covered the fact that there are three categories of assessments: diagnostic, formative, summative. And we also looked at the various types of assessments one could give to students belonging to different disciplines. Uh, in the following, we will look at how to go about creating criteria and rubrics, how to go about assessing them fairly, and providing them feedback. Uh, Criteria and rubrics. Uh, what are criteria and rubrics? Criteria are basically the standards of judgment that we use to assess students. Now, this may sound very vague, this may sound very complex initially, but as we go along, it will become more clearer to all of us. A rubric is where we create a guide to mark against the standards that we have created, against the criteria that we have created. Uh, Now, why is it important for us to create a rubric and criteria for assessment? Now, more often than not, we keep hearing students who come to us and they say, "Sir, this is not how I thought you would assess us." Or they will say, "Sir, I didn't know that you would be giving us this kind of marks for this kind of response to the assignment." Therefore, it's important that we make it clear right in the beginning. Whenever you give an assignment or a task, we tell them that this is the assignment, this is linked to this kind of an outcome for the course, and this is the basis on which I will judge you for this assignment. So we lay down certain criteria, and we also give them weightages, so that the rubric basically provides a weightage against different standards. So I'll take you through those things, but before that, you know uh, why are rubrics and criteria important? They're important because the students will know how their work will be judged, and they can plan their time, their energy into an assignment properly. They will also understand why they have been given a certain set of grades or marks. Uh, Creating a very clear criteria and rubric will prevent a student from approaching a teacher and asking, "Sir, why have you given me these kind of marks?" And in a way, they are also providing some kind of feedback to the student. When you provide feedback on the assignment, you are also telling them that I marked this place because it is against the total spirit of the assignment. Now, as for teachers, your grading was reliable, uh, with little scope for complaints or conflicts between teachers and students. There is consistency in grading. If a student has adhered to the criteria and the rubric, then every student who has met those criteria or not met those criteria will be graded consistently. You are also aligning your marking to the learning outcomes. Remember, every assessment we said should be aligned to a certain outcome. And when students complete their assignment, and most of us discuss the bell curve that a classroom always produces, that there are a few people who don't do well at all. There are very few people at the top who do very well, and there are very few people again, the who don't do very well at all. So there are people who are average. As the curve goes up, very few people on the top, the bell, the as the curve goes up, there are very few people who do well and very few people who don't do well. So that itself, their performance itself is also providing feedback to the teacher as to whether the explanation provided or the teaching done for the unit or the lesson was clear to the students in every manner. Therefore, it is good for the students, it is good for the teachers as well. So, step one is to create a criteria. This is an example of a science teacher who has asked the student to create a poster on a scientific concept. For example, it could be how artificial intelligence can be used to provide advertisements on the internet, something like that. But the student has been asked to create a poster explaining how artificial intelligence can be used to provide advertisements to a consumer. Now, the assignment is created. The criteria are the abstract, the poster itself, and the poster presentation. So we create criteria that, what is the appropriateness of the topic, whether the clarity and conciseness of the abstract in the poster, and the design of the poster itself, whether it is cluttered, whether it is too clunky, or whether it is laid out well, visually able to provide a clean flow to the processes, etc., etc. And to what extent has research gone into the topic, and does it answer the key questions that we are asking? That artificial intelligence, how can artificial intelligence be used to provide advertisements to those on the internet? Now, these are the criteria. The one you see on the left are the criteria for the assignment. And then you have, the grade points on the top. So in the next step, you fill in the rubric. So you say choice and appropriateness of the topic. If they have done well, and if they have been able to do good research, and if the abstract is clear, and if the poster has very good quality, and the concept has been communicated very well, so on and so forth, the student is likely to get between 70 and 100. And there is evidence of research, but the justification has not been provided. The abstract has not been written with clarity, so on and so forth. Therefore, the student gets anywhere between 60 to 69. And as it goes down, you will see that between 0 and 40, the subject chosen is totally inappropriate, no credible evidence of research, no justification. The abstract is absent. The poster is clear, untidy, professional. Communication of the concept is wholly inappropriate. Okay. And no evidence of any background research has been provided. The main question has not been answered. Therefore, the student gets an F grade. So if you lay out these criteria well in advance, the student is mostly able to know why he has been graded 80 or 70, or why he has been graded 40 to 49. Because when the student looks at the rubric, they know that they have been graded here because of ABCD reasons. So and then for the criteria, you also provide some weightage. Okay. For example, for the abstract, you're providing a weightage of 10%, for visual design of the poster, 15%, so on and so forth. And there are key points in the rubrics that will kind of inform the student why they have been marked in a particular manner. No, for example, if complex idea have been communicated well, the weightage of 40% is given in the marks that you give them, 72. And if there is lack of clarity in the abstract, but the poster is well designed, you give 15% of the weightage to that student. And there is occasional use of jargon, you give 40% weightage, so on and so forth. Okay. If limited attention has been paid to making designing the poster, you give them something between 50 to 59. So depending on the different parameters that you have set for each of the criteria, you are going to grade them. And this in a way is ready-made feedback for the student. Okay, the student may still approach you asking you, my abstract is good, but I have been given less marks. Why is that? It is because your poster is not very clear in its design. So one is able to explain to the student and settle the matters there. The most important thing is to have weightages. So if your assignment is for 20 marks, make sure that you create if it is a health communication or a science communication project, you're giving more weightage to the communication of the scientific concept, and for the rest of the things you are giving lesser weightages. Now one might say, sir, is it possible for us to create rubrics for every assignment that we give? Isn't it going to be too much work for a teacher? Believe me, it is less work if you create a rubric criteria and lay it out in the front in front of the students when you give them an assignment, rather than having to sit with them and having to explain to them why you gave them a certain set of grades or marks. Also, it most times it kind of clears the fact that the student does not have to raise a dispute regarding the marking of his or her assignment. So the next part, one part is about creating parameters and marking the students, etc., etc. The next part is about providing feedback. Now, when you say provide feedback, you are looking at an ongoing dialogue with the students, because you're providing them with at least 3 or 4 assignments in a semester. For every assignment, you are providing them feedback, and therefore through the semester, it's a dialogue between the students and the teacher on how they are performing. You are also providing them feedback on what they have learned or what they should be focusing on learning. If you're clear about your feedback, then the student will be able to perhaps understand it better and respond to the next assignment in a much better fashion. And timeliness is also very important. When you are redistributing the assignments, corrected assignments, it is important that you provide that kind of feedback. The one important thing about providing feedback is to keep constantly telling the students or reminding the students is that this assignment, this work was related to this kind of an outcome, and because you were not able to do A, B, C, D, you have been graded less. There are different ways of providing feedback. You could provide comments, you could annotate texts, you could also look at peer review, asking students to review each other's assignments, or a one-on-one with the students. You can do all of this in a blended learning environment because the students are focusing mostly on learning concepts, and you have more time to impart training and imparting skills to the students. Students also understand that when they get feedback, they understand why they have been given a certain set of marks, how they can improve for the future, how they can progress against the learning outcomes. It also helps them identify their strengths and weaknesses. Like I said, in the earlier example, the abstract is good, but the visual presentation of the poster is not great. Okay, so I have to work on my design component. Um I have been able to make very good arguments, but my handwriting is very bad. Therefore, next time, maybe it's important that I type out my assignment before submitting it. Therefore, it also helps them identify their strengths and weaknesses. And it also helps them understand the subject material and build upon their learning and make further choices regarding their study pathways. If constantly they have not been able to perform well in research, but they have been able to perform well in skill based courses, then it might give them a pointer to say that they might want to study skills further. But if a student is able to extract information from various sources, interpret it, analyze it, and present it well, and lucidly present their arguments in an assignment, it might give them a pointer that they might be suited for further research and further studies as well. uh, it also helps them become self-reflective practitioners and lifelong learners, because once they have learned that their assessment is based on a rubric, tomorrow when they go out of the university, they can also implement it at their workplace and ask for the workplace also to implement it for their performance. Therefore, it helps them become better human beings and better industry workers. More importantly, it also helps them develop assessment literacy skills. What do we mean by assessment literacy skills? We are basically saying that some of them might go on to become teachers, and it helps them to have these things in mind, so that when they become teachers, they are also able to provide better assignments, better assessments, and better feedback to their students. What are the different ways in providing feedback? One can use technology to provide feedback. For example, one of the things that we use, uh, and most of us use, is Turnitin, an anti-plagiarism software. You can also use Turnitin to create the rubric and make sure that you every student is clear about the rubric and the criteria. You can also reuse some of the comments that you have created on Turnin to use them in different assignments. So it becomes kind of easy for you to assess similar kinds of assignments that have similar drawbacks or similar good points. Therefore, you can reuse those comments as well. You can also provide audio and video feedback. Uh, Even you can schedule sessions with students where you can provide live feedback, or you can also provide recorded feedback depending on the structure of your learning management system. One way, of course, is also to provide one-on-one feedback. The other kind of feedback is where students assess and share feedback on each other's assignments. These work well when there are group assignments. Okay, so if there is a class of 20 and there are 5 groups that are working on 5 different topics, one group makes its presentation, and the remaining 4 groups are able to provide feedback on the presentation in the presence of the teacher. Okay, so that becomes, they also learn on how to provide good feedback. They are also learning in the process because they are questioning things, they are getting responses from students. Therefore, peer assessment is also a very good way of providing feedback on student assignments. Cohort feedback is where you don't get into specifics of each assignment, each student, each group, etc., but you provide feedback to the entire group, entire class. You say about 30% of you were able to do this assignment very well. I congratulate you, you met all the criteria. About 20% of you perhaps didn't put in enough effort or were not able to understand the assignment properly. So you may have to put in a little more effort. So that kind of a feedback where you give to the entire group. Like I said, having open office hours. For example, I make it a point that I give 1 hour to students. It's mentioned in the course outline that they can meet me between so and so time and so and so time in my office on a given day, so that they can talk to me and get clarification on their assignments, or even get tutorials on concepts that they may not have understood. You could also provide, online consultation for having one-on-one clarification to the students. So that's where I'll stop. Uh, uh, Thank you for being patient and listening to me so far. If you have any feedback, please mail it to the mail ID on the screen. I'll be happy to receive your feedback and improve my presentation the next time. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to respond to them. How to use, okay, I can see one question here. How to use diagnostic assessment technique in classroom situation. Okay. So diagnostic assessments are normally used before a course begins. So, for example, like I said, before a student enters your university, they write an entrance exam. And in that entrance exam, you are trying to assess them whether they are fit to pursue your program. That is one kind of diagnostic assessment. Say, another situation where you can use diagnostic assessment is that they have learned fundamentals of a certain subject in the first semester, and they proceed to the second semester. And in the second semester, you could do a diagnostic assessment of the students by asking them certain fundamental questions about the concepts that they learned in the first semester. If majority of them are able to answer it well, you could probably pitch it at a slightly higher level, or you could do a quick refresh of the concepts that you did in the first semester and then proceed to the second semester's units. I hope that answers the question. Reddy garu? Okay, there is a question from Uttarakhand Open University. Different institutions have different grading patterns. Usually more emphasis is placed on descriptive questions as it works in the student's favor. So how should a teacher decide on number of assessments to use in a course and which assignment techniques to adopt? Okay. So the first question is, more emphasis is placed on descriptive questions as it works in the student's favor. Now, if the intention is to just favor the student, then it's up to the university to decide whether only descriptive questions work. But if you want the students to learn and be a productive citizen when they move out of the university, then the teacher must decide on the kind of assignment that they give to the student. For example, in my course, I teach video production. In my course, I don't have an exam at all, a written exam at all. So throughout the semester, I'm assessing them based on the production assignments that I give them. There is one quiz that kind of tests their understanding of basic concepts. They're asked to do that. That is a timed quiz. So they're all asked to finish that quiz within 20 minutes. There are 40 questions and they're supposed to finish it in 20 minutes. So it's not really necessary that you always have to go with descriptive questions. You can also adopt different kinds of, options. Generally, the number of assessments, I would go with one assignment a month. So I finish 1 or 2 units and I give them an assignment that will cover all the concepts or the principles that are covered in the first 2 units. So generally, if it is a semester, there are 6 units and 3 months, and you are expected to cover 2 units per month. Therefore, after completing 2 units, I give them an assignment or a test. After completing 2 others, I give them another assignment. After completing 2 others, I give them another assignment. That is 3 assignments and one last summative assessment that I do, which is kind of a project that will cover all the things that they have learned in the semester. Thank you. Okay, what is constructive feedback? To put it very simply, constructive feedback basically means that you are telling the student how to improve upon their work in the assignment, rather than telling them, you have not done this well, you have not done this part well, you have not done this part well. That is telling that they already know, because you have already given them less marks. But constructive feedback is about telling them how they could have done this better. If you had done this, maybe the assignment would have improved. If your poster was laid out like this, it would have probably been better. If your abstract was written like this, it would have been probably better. So providing constructive feedback also informs the student on how one can improve. That is constructive feedback. Why a poor grade is given for a student who has secured almost 50%, that is 49%, it might... no, I didn't get this question. Could you please come online and explain it in audio, please? Why a poor grade is given for a student who has secured almost 50%? It might demotivate students. Professor Janardhan Reddy, could you please come online and explain this to me? I'm not able to figure out the question.
The point here is they give some grades are given. Excellent is 70 and above. Like that, poor grade is given for a student who has secured 40 to 49%. 49 is almost 50%. So if we get 40%, a student who has secured 49%, and if we give him poor grade, I think it might demotivate students.
I agree. But then, sir, there has to be some parameter. If there are 20 students in a class, there has to be some parameters based on which we can differentiate between students, right?
Yes.
Based on their understanding, based on their comprehension, based on their output, based on the outcomes that they present. To do that, we have ourselves created this situation where we say, if you score 70 to 100, you get an A+. Well, if a student has secured 49%, the faculty member always has the liberty to make it 50% to motivate the student, maybe in the first assignment.
Okay.
Yeah. Do we have any tools to scale soft skills? Soft skills, mane? What kind of skills are you looking at, Professor Lingeshwar Prasad? Professor Lingeshwar Prasad?
Sir, very good evening, sir. Sir.
Good evening. You asked a question, how to grade soft skills. Huh?
My question refers to, whether how to judge whether they are in the active listening part or how good they are at their expression whenever it is required. They are supposed to represent the topic and all. Yes, sir. Reciprocative skills, sir. Yes,
okay. So one way of doing it perhaps is to give them an assignment that requires interaction. Say, for example, a group presentation or a debate or an open interaction in the class. So you are also, as a teacher, you are also able to identify students who may lack those soft skills.
Sir.
You may want to provide them with additional tutorials so that they improve upon their soft skills.
Yeah, yes, sir. Actually, my question is not about improving, sir. My question is how to analyze. I want to analyze whether they are improved or not. Because, for example, for abstract topics, we have scale of 10 model to identify, like what the level of it. Like that, do you have any specialized tools for soft skills? Sir? That's what actually my query refers to. Sir.
I'm sure there are. One could look at things like Mentor Mob or
Sir.
Ruby Star. There are a couple of things that
okay, fine. I got
that. Yeah.
Right, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah.
How should a teacher resolve collective assessment marks, as sometimes some group members put a lot of effort and some members don't? I agree. I agree that sometimes some group members don't put a lot of effort. So one way of dealing with this is to have a Viva OC. So call each student in separately, congratulate them on their assignment, and ask specific questions to specific students. If they are able to answer that well, it means that they have been involved in the process. If they were not involved in the process, obviously they won't be able to answer a question. So a group work should mostly be followed with a Viva OC. That is one way of doing it. The second way of doing it is where within a group assignment, each one takes one particular task. For example, I'm going to do research. Two of us are going to do research. One of them is going to actually write the abstract. The other one is going to design the poster. So you can ask questions related to those particular tasks. Any other questions, please? Okay. I thank B.R. Ambedkar Open University for giving me an opportunity to interact with you. Thank you so much for being so patient and sitting through the session. I really hope that the session was useful to you, and I still look forward to your feedback. Please send your feedback to the mail ID that I'm putting in the chat box. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Vasuki, for the very excellent explanation of assessment in blended learning. And I hope the participants also have got all their queries cleared. And Professor Vasuki was very patient enough to explain each and every participant's query. And almost all the queries have been resolved. Thank you very much, Professor, for engaging our participants in this capacity building workshop. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And for the participants, I've got certain announcements to make. Now, you have been through 5 days of this capacity building program. Now, in these 5 days, you have learned what is blended learning. Okay, you got all the theoretical aspects of blended learning. From the next week onwards, that is from 21st onwards up till 25th, you're going to have information and communication tools, ICT tools for blended learning. So now you know the concept of blended learning. Then from the next week onwards, you're going to practically have a hands-on session. Okay, so you are going to be involved in the process of building ICT tools for a blended learning approach. So in this point, I would like to request all of you to please have a laptop handy or a desktop handy, because you may be asked to create some animations. You may be asked to download certain softwares, certain free softwares you may be asked to download. And then you may be asked to use these softwares in developing a lesson on what you have learned in the first week. So in the first week, you had learned all the theoretical part of it. In the second week, the resource persons are going to teach you the practical aspects of integrating what you learned and using this in the lessons that you would deliver as part of your blended learning process. So next week onwards, please have your laptops handy, have your desktops handy. In case, why I'm saying this is because you may be asked to download certain softwares and use them practically and show the output to the resource persons who are presenting, who are giving you the hands-on training. So it is better if you have this laptop or desktop arrangement with you. And in case you require any other inputs, you have got the WhatsApp group with you. Feel free to contact us on this WhatsApp group. We will try to resolve all your queries, which are more logistical in approach. Okay, and next week, as I was telling you, we are going to have Professor K. Srinivas from National Institute of Educational Planning, New Delhi. So he is going to be with us for the entire week and is going to give us intense training, which more would be a hands-on approach, a hands-on training approach on ICT skills in blended learning. Okay, see you all next week. And in case you have got any queries, please do contact us on the WhatsApp number. And today's presentation, the PPTs we're going to share right away after the end of this session. You can also have all the PPTs with you, download them and keep them for your reference. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your patient and participative listening to this capacity building workshop. Thank you so much.